I'm allowed to preach it. I'm preaching now in a church, and I'm soon going to be 80 years old. But the people had not heard it before, but I explained this to them when I interviewed for the position. They liked the idea, and they wanted to hear more about that. And I've been preaching now for about a year there, and they're very open to it and love it. People bought the books, and one woman told me her grandfather was a Jewish person, and she's so glad to know that he won't be burning in hell forever. And a lot of good news about that. So the thing about Calvinism, I point out it in my books, especially in the book Christianity Without Insanity. I use the Calvinistic acrostic. Are you familiar with that? The tulip. And pointed out that you only make one tweak in that tulip, changing the U from they from limited atonement to unlimited atonement, limitless / unlimited. And then I add an S to the tulip for salt of fire and burning sulfur. That converts Calvinism into Christian Universalism. So it's very close, though Calvinism by itself sounds like a horrible thing, that God only chooses a few people to be saved. And God made that election even before the creation of the world. So people are going to hell. That's all God's doing. You don't have a choice about that. You could be one of the best persons in the world. If God didn't choose you to be saved, you're damned to hell forever, even before you're born. It's really absurd, isn't it? I was a full-time hospice chaplain. And that's after I left the evangelical denomination, after being told I'd be condemned as a heretic if I didn't resign. And there's a social worker who worked for hospice, and she said that she was attending a Presbyterian church, and they were without a pastor, and she wondered if I'd be interested in filling the pulpit there. And I said, sure. So I went several Sundays and preached, and they told me they really liked my preaching, and asked me if I'd be interested in coming back regularly, being installed pastor. I said, yeah, be glad to. But before that, I said, I'd like for you to know for sure you understand what I believe, because I don't want a problem later. And I explained what I believed about Jesus being the Savior of the whole world, not just part of the world. Hell is real, but it's not literal fire. It's not forever. And they understood that, and they were fine with that. And I preached there for 15 years while being a full-time hospice chaplain. And the people, I got evaluated every year. I got the highest evaluation. They told me they really felt fortunate. They had a pastor with such educational background. And with their friends and family and relatives, others were going to churches up the Hollows in this area of West Virginia. And they were hearing all about eternal damnation and so on. So this church was so glad to hear about my perspective on that. So everything was great for 15 years until Spiritual Terrorism, my first book, was published. Someone who's sort of a church boss read it and said, oh my goodness, I didn't know that you believe that everyone's going to be saved. I said, where have you been for 15 years? But anyway, he led the charge and got a meeting called of the church governing board called the Presbyterian, or the session. And they said they wanted my resignation or were going to condemn me as a heretic. And so I resigned. So you never know where the bigotry may come from. But that was one that got rid of me, but this Presbyterian church wants me. So each Presbyterian church is autonomous, so they can do as they want to do.